We're good to go. Good to go. All right, everyone. Well, it is now 5 o'clock, May 21st. We are going to kick off the Zero Waste Committee for the evening. Let's start with roll call. I can take care of that. So Chris Robert, that's me. I'm here. Donna Egan. Muted. Donna's here.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Donna's here. Erica?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
Angelina?
Excuse.
She's excused. Tim?
Here.
Nancy?
Here.
Hello, and Kevin? Here. All right. Let's move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Up to me. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic
which stands indivisible with liberty and justice. All right, thank you. So we will now move into public comment. We have a couple members of the community here. Would anyone like to make a public comment?
Thank you.
Of course.
My comment is, identify myself, Anna Jones. My comment is, the hope that we can actually do a zero waste implementation plan that coordinates with the work that the agent, I'm sorry,
Sorry, this is my fault. I apologize.
that coordinates with the work that the agency, the planning the agency has done, and the guidance document, which I believe is due out soon. I haven't seen it yet, but and to also include people that have raised concerns about the agency. And let's try and put our heads together, get it done so there's a defined plan to actually do maximum waste diversion. And that it should include cost and where the revenue is going to come from to cover the cost, a timeline, what it does or doesn't include. And a lot of work has already been done on background information for mattresses and tires and household hazardous waste and all of the different components. But we're still missing an implementation plan. And that's not to say the agency hasn't been doing really excellent planning. And also the recent workshops, I think, have added to the knowledge base. But I just want us to collectively find a way to get the key stakeholders together to finish this so we can actually know where we're going and do that implementation. Thank you for bearing with me.
Of course, it's very important. And we have a discussion topic on the preliminary zero waste implementation plan, and we'll talk about that later in the agenda tonight. So absolutely. Anything you'd like to add? No. All right. So that is it for public comment. We'll move to the next section, which is the approval of the agenda tonight. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Can I make one quick comment?
Yes.
So sorry, and I should have pointed this out ahead of time, but since we have members, do we want to maybe shift the agenda so that the preliminary zero waste implementation plan comes before the community member application discussion? If that's going to end up going in executive session so that we can.
Yeah, that's fine. So what we'll do, we're going to flip in the new business section. We're going to discuss the preliminary zero waste implementation plan and have that discussion first, so we can all get grounded on what we aim to do with that, and then we'll move into the community member application discussion about bringing some other members from the community into this committee.
Has there been a motion? Has there been a motion on the agenda yet?
That's what, motion to, I guess it's a motion to adjust the agenda slightly to flip the 2 bullet points under new business in the opposite order. Does that make sense, Donna?
So the parliamentary procedure is there's a motion and then a second, and then there's discussion. And then, we vote after that. So
I'd like
that's,
to make a motion to amend the agenda to swap the 2 bullets in new business.
Yes. And then do we have a motion to
Or
Discussion.
on the agenda? Do we need
you
a
were
motion for that?
the only two that can make motions, Erica and,
Yeah.
and Chris.
But we're in the discussion part, Donna, about the amendment. So do you have any discussion for the amendment?
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay. So, the motion to close?
No, just the call to vote for the amendment.
All right, so call to vote for the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sus.
Aye. All right. Motion has been approved. We will flip that section of the agenda. And motion to approve the agenda as we've just discussed to amend it. Motion.
Oh, yes, I will make the motion to approve the agenda as amended.
And I'll second that motion. All right, motion accepted.
Thanks to vote.
Yes.
Thanks to vote. Well, we'll do a class on parliamentary procedure someday, just so it goes smoother, if you like.
I'm learning. So now we'll go to the approval of minutes. Minutes were provided for the last session. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as they were provided to us?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion. So the minutes will be approved. Of the
Well, you
March
have to have a discussion. So you have to say,
Okay.
is there any discussion? Right? And then people have the opportunity to discuss, and then you vote, you call the vote after the discussion.
Got it. All
Right
right.
in there.
Do we have a motion to discuss?
You did. You're open.
You're
All
open
right.
for discussion.
So the motion comes to approve the minutes. That opens up discussion. After being seconded, and then we can.
Okay.
There's discussion.
Is there any discussion needed from anyone on the approval of minutes? All right.
And then you can vote.
So then we'll vote on the approval of the minutes. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, approval of minutes has been approved. Okay, next agenda section, communications and announcements. We only have one for tonight. The next Zero Waste Committee meeting will be held on July 9th, 2026 at 5 p.m. We have no presentations this evening, so we will go ahead and move into the update section. The first item there is on the year-to-date materials recovery update from.
So at the last meeting, we went over the 2025 diversion of materials. This is a document that is put together by our Director of Operations, Charlie Whitaker. I asked him to do kind of a mid-year update on your request. So it's been provided in the materials for the public. I'll kind of quickly go through where we are year to date compared to where we were last year to date, talk about some notable trends and future diversion opportunities. So, I mean, if that feels like it's a valuable time of the committee, me just reading the
I think
material list, do you want me to focus on the
Focus
trends?
on the ones that are most meaningful and where the biggest increases, decreases.
Yeah, so to start, I'll mention like our volume's down generally. So this is diversion off of our floor. It's what comes over the scale and we divert it in our buildings. So it makes sense that our year to date is lower for diversions because our overall volumes are lower than last year to date. Some of the big takeaways, and I will mention copper is now spelled correctly on the report. We're up quite a bit on deer who have perished. I think that speaks to, like, you see that on the roadways, but we're up almost a ton on our mortality compost that's happening. Most of the materials are slightly down. E-waste is actually up by 4 tons, which is about quarter or a third higher, I guess. A quarter higher than they were last year to date. And again, this is diversion of e-waste from our tipping floor. So this is not the e-waste that comes to us on Saturdays. It is people bringing it in their MSW, and we are diverting it from going to a landfill.
Does that usually happen around now after taxes have come out?
I don't know that I've seen
I
a
remember getting
correlation.
my tax check in the past and buying a TV.
Yeah. That
Just
was,
curious.
I think it's fairly steady, because I think a lot of people do utilize our e-waste recycling. And
Mhm.
so I would guess that maybe in the beginning of the year, like January, February, where we're not offering again year-round e-waste, that you might see higher numbers, and it starts to drop off as that program goes through.
Gotcha.
So let me just hit the notable trends. Organic and woody diversion streams. So think about your brush, your clean wood, your wood chips continue to represent significant landfill diversion tonnage. That is actually, those materials are coming over our scale, but they're going directly there. We're not necessarily pulling a lot of that off of our tipping floor. So it's a diversion metric, but it's being delivered straight to the compost facility. So here, e-waste recycling continues to expand, particularly from commercial cleanouts and roll-off activity. So that's where we're seeing a lot of that hitting our tipping floor. Construction and demolition materials. So rubble, concrete related inert material remain a stable diversion stream. Our metal recovery programs show mixed trends, with aluminum and copper remaining stable, but scrap metal has decreased significantly. I think that you see that because we've seen a decrease in overall construction and demolition debris, and that's where that scrap metal will often come in. Specialty programs like tires, fluorescent lamps, batteries, propane tanks continue to demonstrate consistent participation and regulatory compliance support. So that means our staff in the building are making sure that we pull all of that in order to stay compliant with our permit. We're not supposed to receive those materials. So whereas like scrap metal, it's not illegal for us to send scrap to a landfill. It is not permitted for us to send the tires and the battery. And then the mattress recycling program obviously wasn't on the 2025 numbers. So that's a fairly large number of mattresses that we have diverted this year. 1,905 units. Now we have unfortunately paused that program because we were notified by our vendor that when we switched from having them come and receive the mattresses with a box truck, we switched it over to trailers in order to reduce the number of trips, and that was always kind of the plan. We were just waiting to build out our little staging area. They said that out of the 4 most recent loads, they had to landfill 99% of the mattresses they received. And so we pay them $20 a mattress to recycle them. It does not make sense for us to pay them $20 a mattress for them to end up landfilling. They sent pictures. I think there's an issue from the time we place the mattresses in the trailers. They will sometimes sit for days before the company can come retrieve the trailer. And anything, the pictures I saw were moldy mattresses, and we weren't putting them in that condition. If we receive contaminated mattresses, we still send them to a landfill. Not every mattress is recyclable. But I think what was happening is they were sitting for 6 days, 7 days sometimes, and in heat with trailers that have no air flow, you can build mold, especially if they're damp at all, in 36 to 48 hours. And so I think there was just rapid mold growth and ended up having to landfill. I have a meeting with them on June 3rd. So right now we're just landfilling mattresses, unfortunately. But I have a meeting with them on June 3rd to figure out a better system, which will include they need to be prepared that when we call them and tell them that we've loaded a full trailer, that they are coming to pick it up within 24 to 48 hours. Because again, none of the mattresses from the box trucks were landfilled. And those were like in a staging area, loaded into the box truck right away. Yeah, go ahead, Don. Sorry, can't hear you.
The box truck option then?
Can't hear you very well, Donna. It's very glitchy.
You're breaking up.
Box truck option, can we go back to that?
We can. It means like 3 or 4 box trucks to Long Island every day, and it's just very inefficient and not like, yes, it's something that we're considering. Like what we're gonna work out all of our issues on June 3rd.
Yeah.
But
Did
yeah.
they-
Oh, did you say before then?
No. I just in general, but also what do they do with other? Is it their is it their trailer truck, or is it like why are we having the problem? Why do they think we're having the problem? And that's what you're probably doing in June, but that seems alarming. 99% is very alarming.
Yeah, and I can just go off of the data that they're giving me, and you know, I don't know if that 99% is an exaggerated number. I saw pictures of maybe 20 mattresses that were supposed to be like the highlight of, or you know, supposed to show what most of the mattresses look like, what they said. Again, what the condition that the mattresses were in those photos was not the condition of the mattresses when we placed them in the trailers. So
You put one wet one in there, that's it, right? So it's a moisture driven thing. So I wonder if we need a drying area or something like I'm sure you'll come up with solutions, but it just seems it's alarming.
Everything,
it's alarming.
It is. All the research that I've read, it takes about 36 to 48 hours for mold to grow and be visible. And then after that 48 hours, it can rapidly grow. So if they are able to pick up the trailers within, 24 hours, which is kind of what the plan was, I think some of this is growing pains. They did about 10,000 mattresses annually prior to our contract, and our contract is, almost doubling that capacity. So they had to lease trailers, which means they're leasing drivers. It's just a growth aspect. And I think you can expect with a new program, there's going to be bumps in the road, but like, we're not going to pay them to landfill mattresses. So we needed to, it's already a very expensive, like when you look at per ton, which I hate doing because it's really a per unit, we have a per unit charge, but we look at everything per ton, it costs us roughly $800 to $900 per ton to recycle mattresses, where it costs us $105 to dispose of it at the landfill. What we need to do is we need to match the revenue coming in from the mattress fees with our expenses, which is the 20 on recycling, but also some operational costs too. So that means, we already went from $5 a mattress to $10 a mattress, plus there's the minimum weight that people pay. So it's like if someone brings in a box spring and a mattress, that's roughly the minimum fee of $20 plus $10 for each one. That's $40. We pay $40, right? So it offsets minus our operational costs. But I think what we need to probably look at in next year's tipping fee is like a $20 mattress. We don't want them, honestly. We'd prefer if they need to be brought here, we want to recycle them. There is mattress EPR program legislation going in the state, and the landfills don't want them. Like, they are charging people very high amounts now because of our contracts and long-term relationships. we're not getting charged for mattresses in our landfills, but they are charging everybody else. They take up a lot of capacity for very little weight, and they don't need to be there.
Sounds to your point, like it's a logistics and growing pain scaling problem that is more on their end than it is on our end.
I think we can do a better job of ensuring that we're not putting, you know, if there's a question, I hate to say this, then throw it out instead of potentially spreading contamination through a whole load. So it may mean on the front end, we're not recycling as much, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, Donna?
It's old, so yeah. Maybe you had a rain event or a snow melt or leaky roof on that trailer, and you know, all you need is a couple that have the moisture on it, and then you kind of have a cancer that grows in there, especially if it's sitting there for 6 days. So I mean, shipping it to them is faster as a solution, but you still might have a wet mattress in there that's going to cause them problem, and maybe they don't offload it on the other side. So I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me that if you had some wet mattresses, you got to have to toss them aside and not put them in there and just cause the whole load to go south, right? So
Right.
yeah, we're ramping it up, and we have to use some reason, right? You don't go to 100 miles an hour in 6 seconds with mattresses, but I mean, throwing them all away, that just is counterintuitive.
It's hard for me not to go 100 miles per hour in 6 seconds, but yes, I totally understand that. Like, I think I didn't expect that they wouldn't be ready after it took us a couple months to get the building up. And so again, we're just resetting some strategy and expectations. They were away at conferences this week. We had issues trying to schedule something for next week. So June 3rd was the earliest we could do, but I want to get I want to get the program back up and running, because it's not like staff have to touch the mattresses way more than they ever did. So I don't think it's a program that is popular amongst the staff. I don't want to pause it for too long and make it seem like we're not going back to it.
Yeah.
So
Do you think you'll be able to have an update in our next regular board meeting in June?
at June, I won't for May,
Yeah.
because it's just next week, and then it's not until June 3rd, but
Okay.
I'll definitely have an update by then. And I'll probably shoot an email update to the board
Okay.
when after that meeting, when it's back up and running.
Can we go back to tires? Were you done?
Mhm.
So
Yes,
you mentioned our permit does not allow us to take tires in our MSW in our waste, right? Is that what you were saying?
well, and it's also not legal to landfill tires. But yeah, they have to be recycled. So yes, it's a double.
Transfer station. If I bring in a tire as a resident, what are my options?
Well, if it's incidental to the load, we take it and we send it to Casings, who recycles it. That's why we do the diversion program. I think that the point that I was making is that some of these materials that we are both by permit, but also by law, not supposed to landfill, we have a higher rate of diversion than maybe some of the materials where we want to divert them. But if a piece of clean wood ends up in a landfill, we're not violating a law or our permit.
You see how I struggle that, we have this issue with tires, but we have no options for people that are coming to the site. You're between the rock and a hard place. We can't send it to the landfill, and we don't allow people to have a receptacle to put tires in. And maybe we're pulling some out, so we're handling more than we need to be handling tires, and tires are a large percentage of the waste stream. And so I just object that we don't have any place to put tires at that site.
What's the recycling cost? So if it costs us $10, $20 per mattress, is it similar with recycling of tires that come in?
I don't have that
This thing?
exact data. I can get it for you. I mean, yes, it costs us money. It's a per unit cost to recycle the tires.
Tires.
$5
or $2.
Yeah, and we have a tire fee as well that is reflective.
But
Think
but
that's
we get charged by the ton though, not by the tire. Is that correct?
For recycling,
Yes.
I can double check that. I think we get charged by the unit, but
Casing's charged by the ton, so if it's casings, it's by the ton.
Gotcha.
If Angeline's there, she should know.
she's
Sorry, I'm
not.
driving. Oh, okay, I'm driving. so
I'll follow up with the committee.
I think,
Yep.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
I think that's fine, sure.
Good. Doesn't casings burn the tires that are sent there? Don't they use that for energy? And isn't that right on the border of Ulster County? And when they burn it, doesn't it come often back this way? I don't have another solution. I don't know what to do with tires. And I've thought about it, but sending it to casings feels like end running the legislation that we've set up that says we're not going to burn anything.
Yeah, and I hear that. I know that they are a permitted facility to accept tires for disposal and recycling. And so
Yep.
we can only take them to where the DC allows us to take them is part of the issue. And to your point, I mean, there are some companies that grind them up and put them on, use it for turf and other things that use chip rubber for playgrounds and other things. I'm not sure that's a better solution either. I know at the school district, when we wanted to use, chipped up tires, people were adamant that we not, so.
Sounds like something that needs to be thought through as we build out zero waste implementation plan and, the suggestions. I mean, it's not like we have an easy solution, but it's something that is a problem. But I think we need to really think through because incinerating is bad. Yes, ma'am?
Casings is a favorite discussion because that's where we did, able to get a very good collaboration years ago, on tire recycling. I believe they also, where they can market only do,
Right.
and I think it's the playgrounds and also to occasional roadway usage. They have some, they add beneficial properties when they're used in.
I mean, processing of recycling is not a clean, like whether it's plastics or other things, you're using heat, you're breaking it back down to molecules. So,
Is that something that a staff member could look into and just get us clarity on?
Yeah.
On cases.
So then it would be good to have our facts well understood around tires for sure. Donna, did you have any other points you wanted to make around tires?
Yeah, I mean, if you're having a staff assignment, maybe you can see if there are other casings is kind of like the one, but maybe there's other options. And I know we always talk about the cost implications of things, but there is an environmental implication too. So if there's a better option out there, at least we should be presented with the information. We shouldn't always be the cheap, on the cheap, but the board and the committee should be able to evaluate if there are other options and what the cost benefit are those other options. But that's a tough one. Casings is kind of like, I do not believe they're on the border of Ulster County, but they could be. I think they're a little further north than that, but
Okay, well, I think that's a good action for us to get some more information. Did you want to continue, Mark, with any other materials recovery update, or do you want to move into the projects update?
I think we can move into the projects update,
Okay.
unless anybody has any further questions, diversions. Okay, so we'll start with the repower project. We are still looking for a site. We have toured a site in Saugerties. It was the former Big Lots and we brought the operator up. It is a site that would potentially work for some aspects of the program. It's still not the ideal site. So it's like, we would not be able to put the entire program as kind of anticipated. Some of the incubation pieces, classrooms, it's 28,000 square foot, and it's really, most of it is set up nicely for retail space. So there'd be a small amount of processing space. There'd be a small amount of space for furniture repair. It's unclear, like the building materials aspect, how that would fit in that location. So I think, they're kind of reworking their budgets and seeing how it would work. I mean, the other aspect is that it's in the far corner of the county, so it's not accessible to all of our residents like something more in the city of Kingston would be. And there's much less kind of traffic volume that would go through there. So we're evaluating whether it makes sense to move forward in a not perfect site, or whether we just kind of, even though it's not happening as fast as I would like to see it happening, hold out for the perfect site.
Just a wild thought. Could we collaborate with another county that might have a suitable site? Make it a little more regional.
I mean, so that would make certain aspects of the program difficult. And the kind of phase 2 of the program is to take materials that come over the scale, divert it before it reaches the floor, like furniture and other pieces, and have them delivered directly to the site. The logistics behind the site that's in another county, I'd have to think on a little bit more. It's a totally different program if that's the case, and not necessarily, like, it's not just having a building. Like, I'm not sure that, like, if you were thinking Sullivan County or someplace like that they just don't have the populations that would drive this. And I wonder how often our residents would be willing to drive to Orange County, Dutchess County, Sullivan County, Greene County, and deliver donated items and purchase donated. I mean, the idea of the project is to divert our waste, materials, reuse materials before they become waste, really. I would be careful heading down.
Well, just the idea, right? Because ideas are good and help us think about things. But I mean, in fact, we always talk a lot about hub and spoke, but maybe the processing part could be because you said you're finding space, so we have found a good retail aspect, but not a good warehouse aspect. So maybe you could split those two between two counties, or I don't know. Like, do we just throw up our hands and say no? Or do we look at other options? That's all. And I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but it was my suggestion. So there you have it.
Definitely good to have suggestions. I mean, like, it could work, but then you've got the gas prices, the gas cost, and emissions of trucking things from place to place.
I'll just add, we found 2 sites in the city of Kingston that we thought would work for like warehousing and retail, and they were very concerned about the logistics, because a lot of the foot traffic coming in on the sales portion is people who've dropped off donated goods. And so if you're receiving in one area and selling, but there's the logistics of receiving in one spot, warehousing in another, and then bringing it back to the sales floor, it just adds, it's not really what they proposed on. So it'd be significant changes. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. We would just have to go back to them. They just, for their part, they're ready and willing and able to set something up whenever we're ready for it, but they are not in a hurry to do that. Like, it is not, their focus is more like, we would like to get the site right. and they have, you know, a brand new store in Brooklyn. I'm not saying they can't, if this site in Saugerties, we decided was the site, they could get it up by the fourth quarter of this year. They could staff up and do all those things, but they want to make sure that it actually works. And I think we do too.
Well, that's fair. And quite honestly, when I go to Goodwill, usually I'm dropping off and then I go to the store and shop. So you're absolutely, I mean, that's totally a legitimate comment.
Yeah, it's tough because we want it to happen. We know it's important, but you know, you're kind of treading water, waiting for the site to materialize and make an effort. So that it's like we need to make the best choice of what we have without kicking it down too far in the future.
Are there any properties that are not being used, but are also not up for sale? You can speak to folks who have those properties,
Yeah.
maybe convince them.
That has not been on my radar as far as like where we've searched, so I can't answer whether those exist. I think that's one area of a property like that is Tech City. And so we've submitted part of the problem is the ownership of Tech City for the West Campus, which would be ideal to the, for this use. The ownership is up in the air, right? UCRRA foreclosed, or they started the foreclosure process, but that could be anywhere from a year to 18 months before they have title of the property. We did submit just, to the county executive's office, a proposal of like a circular economy, what did we call it? Circular economy campus, or yeah, which would have workforce development, have the RIC, have a larger aspect.
And that was a part of the circular economy plan that we saw. Yeah, more.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was several months ago. We haven't heard a response, but it's understandable because the ownership is.
Does the county have any buildings that are not being used or vacant?
Not that I'm aware
Okay.
of. I mean, our broker, Joe Deegan, is a very good real estate broker and is constantly looking. I mean, to your point, like we searched at the mall and tried to, see about that, and that there's just not a lot of appetite. There's the wasn't a Big Lots, it was a Burlington Coat Factory. We've reached out to them, they're not interested. We've reached out to the owners at Party City, they're not interested.
Is that big enough?
We're 2 spots there.
Right, oh, we
We're 2 spots there.
so the Party City, and then there's a vacant parcel that we would have built, like some roofing for building materials. So it would have been, big enough. But, I think, we have to consider whether we just find a vacant parcel and build at some point, but that would take longer than just, we might get to that point, where it makes sense. And we've looked at both for sale and for lease. A couple of the buildings in Kingston that we looked at that were for sale, one was right on Cornell Street. It was the old
Ulster Lighting.
building, would take a considerable amount of work.
And
But
environmental
would be
stuff.
and there's some groundwater environmental concerns around that area that we could end up being in the chain of title and having liability for. So we have tread lightly, but that would be an ideal location as far as placement in Midtown, walkable and
Where, I'm sorry.
Cornell Street, so right across the street from the parking lot. It's actually the site right next door to Red Owl. But it would take a major renovation. And they want $2.8 million for it.
That's the one that, Big Cheese, they own it,
No,
used to.
no.
Okay. Well, but I mean, we're not gonna solve it here, but Keep us informed.
Yeah,
I mean,
will do.
if anyone listening, the public has an idea, reach out.
Yeah, we're all ears. Global Energy Project, so I'm waiting on some test results from their Madrid, Spain facility. Preliminary results on heavy metals is that there's not it is satisfactory to Spain's regulations, which are very similar to ours. There's not a lot of heavy metal contaminants in their hydrolyzed fraction, which we expected. They've never tested that material for PFAS. So we will ask them to order a test, which they've done, and it is being analyzed as we speak and should have results in the next week or two. That will help shape the direction that I would recommend towards the board. You know, right now it's not just this anaerobic digestion project, but anaerobic digestion projects throughout the country are not ending up financially feasible. For this project, it adds about $50 million onto the total project, which adds about $50 per ton to the feedstock agreement. If the organic fraction can test clean, I think we have an opportunity to do a couple of things. One, we could just build the mixed waste processing facility with Econward's equipment, and we would separate out the 20% recyclables. We would get the 50% organic waste that goes through thermal hydrolysis. And then we have a couple options. We could find anaerobic digesters in the state that would accept it. There's not a lot, but so that material could go elsewhere instead of us building on site. There are some wastewater treatment plants that would take that. It's not an ideal option for me because it's still like kind of ending up in the waste stream.
Yeah.
So I would prefer not to do that. The other option would be that we build a 50,000 ton composting facility, and which would be significantly cheaper than anaerobic digestion. It would again have to be tested and make sure that it's free and clear of PFAS and heavy metals. I don't know that I would market and sell it similar to our compost out here, and we would never combine the two because this is a cleaner stream. But when you look at the damages from climate change that have occurred over the last decade, there are municipalities that need to rebuild embankments, and they need soil to do that. And I think that is just going to get worse. And so even if we sold it as soil and fill for different projects and not agricultural use, if we weren't comfortable with the testing, then I think we could still bring in revenue. We could provide a service that's needed and prevent our waste from going into landfill.
Yes.
I had been in touch with somebody named, I can't remember if it's Joe or John Madole or
It
Madoli.
was the guy you were.
And he designed a facility for the Atlanta airport. And Vince Mao from the, yeah, he, so I will send that to you and to Vince. One of the things he really stressed was curing the digestate and making sure that it's fully composted, and of course testing it before land spreading. But he and the folks who developed that program, which was never built but has a lot of valuable information, feel that there's a real benefit in terms of replacing topsoil loss, which
Right.
is a real problem, and for agricultural use if properly managed. And, you know, he really stressed the need to cure the compost. So I'll forward that. Vince Mao is doing a presentation to Sierra Club. And so it is a topic of interest. And, you know, I just want to see us divert as much as we can as safely as we can. So I'll share that and maybe share it with the rest of the board.
Yes, please do.
I'd like a clarification, please. One is, Manna, you're talking about leachate from a biodigester? Or what are you talking about?
No, this was an anaerobic digestion of MSW.
So the remainder.
The
from
digesting.
Anaerobic digestion process.
Yes.
Which is a little,
Residue, is that what you call it?
it's digestate.
Just
Digestate, okay. So, and you're suggesting we use that
Well, I'm not
in
suggesting,
landscaping?
I'm just reporting that, there is this information that I think is worth looking into.
Right, but it's a amendment kind of material. And then Mark, you were saying that you would use compost as filter?
No, so, well, this is if we don't go full, like, I think what Manna's comment is like the digestate, if we go with the full anaerobic digestion project, as was awarded, right? Which still is roughly $145 a ton, just, that's where we still stand, which is considerably higher than what we pay to dispose of waste now. If we remove the anaerobic digestion, we can get the project for $95 a ton. Plus, I would guess we can get it down a little bit through some low interest. Like, they are building a project where they have to find investors, and the investors have to see a certain return. If we can connect them with NYSERDA and other places to get lower interest funding capital on this project, our tipping fee, our feedstock agreement cost goes down. So right now, the ceiling of the project without anaerobic digestion is $95 a ton. If we get it lower than that, that's good. But we would do just that project, and then the it's an they call it an organic fraction. So the food waste, the contaminated cardboard, and the contaminated paper gets shredded up and put through a process called thermal hydrolysis.
Mhm,
The organic fraction, it was what comes out the other side of that.
mhm.
That has gone through, because it's gone through that thermal hydrolysis, which cleans it of pathogens and other things. That is what happens in the first 30 days of composting.
Mhm.
So you really save 30 days. You have this organic fraction that they've said so far, test free of heavy metals. And we'll find out about PFAS here shortly. If we could, instead of putting it through an anaerobic digester, build a large scale composting facility, we could turn it into both compost and a soil that would be a replacement for topsoil.
There is a significant difference between composted organic material and soil.
Yeah, it would just depend on how it tests. If we felt like it was safe to use as compost for.
But no, I'm not talking about toxicity, I'm talking about chemistry.
Sure.
That soil has mineral elements in it, and organic material continues to deteriorate over time and eventually almost disappears. So they're not equivalent products.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's true. This would go through a composting process and technically become compost, but compost can also be used as a replacement for soil.
It is a soil amendment. I think we should be careful of our language.
soil amendment. Okay. So
Yes.
that's the word that man used previously, so.
Yes, so it will improve the texture and condition of the soil, but it is not a soil replacement.
We can add, like, we can combine different materials and we can.
Yes, it fluffs it up, and since, yes. But I just think we should be careful with our language and be specific.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, Donna?
So what's the difference, Mark, between the end product that you're proposing, which sounds like a good idea, in terms of quality, maybe you don't know the answer, between this and Delaware County, for example, would it produce a higher quality soil amendment than Delaware County? Because Delaware County is really MSW composting, really is a little less selective on the input. Am I interpreting correctly?
And it doesn't have the thermal hydrolysis.
And then, yeah, so again, like the process of going through thermal hydrolysis helps both kind of condense the material and cleans it of pathogens, which so I'd say that it would be of similar quality or slightly higher, but I can't make the claim it will be higher because the heat in composting, which gets it up to about 106, on a normal composting process also kills pathogens. So like, I don't want to disparage Delaware County's processes either because they are using MSW to create compost.
Right.
But I do believe that with the steam, it would be a slightly cleaner process. But similar.
Because I know there's concerns with the output there can only be for soil, for road dressing and, like it just has to be managed properly. That's all.
But again,
we don't want
that
to limit
would be-
ourselves. And
Yeah, I hear you.
there's a little bit of consideration. I'll just throw this out here. Like, do we want to put another county out of business? I don't know if I'm being melodramatic a little bit, but I mean, there is plenty of space for soil amendments to be used. If it's a good quality soil amendment, it would be a welcome addition to any county.
Right. I don't think, again, especially with the impacts from climate change, I don't think that there's going to be a less demand for these type of materials moving forward,
Gotcha.
especially with the replacement of topsoil.
Yep. Good.
Hey, Nancy, can you come off mute and just talk for a second? I just want to make sure, sorry, just say hello, just so that.
Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand like the quality of the.
Yeah, Donna, your connection is very glitchy, so I don't know if you're in a bad signal area or low Wi-Fi or something. It's just not coming
I
through straight.
am driving, so I apologize. I'm in and out.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on our end.
I'm driving, so
Got it. Okay, any other questions or comments you wanted to make about energy?
No, I think that's that project. I gave the update on the mattress project. And those are the main kind of zero waste projects in our capital plan right now. I think in the 2027 budget, we have to consider putting in some engineering costs for both the on-site MRDC, which would include the full-time household hazardous waste collection, the full-time e-waste collection. But we need to design it to build it. And so I think when you see the 27 budget, we're going to probably be looking to the board to have some engineering costs for both that. And the beginning process of the secondary diversion building. And then probably some costs for beginning the local solid waste management plan early so that we can add in the zero waste principles.
When do we typically review the budget? In August. All right, great. Is there any other questions from anyone, Donna or Erica, about the updates from the agency?
Good.
Good. Okay, then let's move into the new business section. And as we flip the topics, the first topic we will discuss is the preliminary zero waste implementation plan, which I think is a quite exciting opportunity for this committee. So I'll just take a few minutes to talk about sort of what I'm thinking here, but please, Erica, Donna, and Martin weigh in on some of the stuff. So for the remainder of this year within this committee, what we really want to focus on is shaping the preliminary zero waste implementation plan for Ulster County. We think it's very important for this document to be developed and built upon the framework and a ton of great information that was already put together a few years back, which is, I think, a great starting point for a very focused plan. It won't be the actual plan, but it will be an input into what what the agency will be doing as part of the next local solid waste management plan. So we want to build on what's already there, and we want to develop a practical advisory framework to help this next phase of development, with the overarching objective of achieving 30% diversion by 2030, 60% by 2040, and 90% by 2050. I think it's very important for how we shape this plan to start really seriously tackling those objectives. So I wanted to have a discussion amongst the board or the folks on the call here to really see, like, what do we think this plan needs to focus on. I've got a framework that I have in mind of like sections that we want to build. And I think the community members that we're going to bring into this group will be great assets. But I just want to make it clear, we're going to have up to 3 community members joining this committee, but members of the public who aren't brought in can help and support the creation of this document. It's very important to open that up so that everyone can see what's being worked on and feed into it where appropriate. And so I think, so we're going to have the community members, and then we also want to bring in a representative from the legislature. So we have a legislative representative here, and we're also thinking about having somebody from the town supervisors committee come and join us as well. So this is truly a wide aperture of people that we're bringing in to make something that is material and aligned with different parties that have a sort of skin in the game, and we can build something that's collaborative. Very important. So I'll just sort of list the 9 categories I think we need to focus on. This is just a starting point, So I think the first phase of the zero waste implementation plan framework should be really focusing on the current system and the diagnosis of what we do today in Ulster County. Second sort of section would be a focus on our zero waste vision in Ulster County, how we define it for us, and what our targets need to be. I think our targets by New York State are pretty clear, but I think we should also establish what we think our targets for Ulster County need to be. They'll be aligned, but then we'll talk about in the third section initiatives, and this is both covering what Mark said is already ongoing, plus potential other recommendations that could go into the local solid waste management plan, concepts for future state initiatives that are going to bring us to those 2030, 2040, and 2050 goals. Fourth section would be a phased implementation roadmap recommendation. So as Mark and team are building out their capital plans, some of this content can feed right into what they're thinking about structuring for the next couple decades. But for the local ones, just more short term. The fifth section, and I think this one is extremely important, is around funding and finance roadmap. Like, the agency can't do this all by itself. I think we need to collaborate with the towns and with the county to figure out how we invest and fund these programs that we want to do as a group. Sixth section will be focusing more on the governance and a decision-making model around how we do this as a county together and make decisions as a group. The seventh section would be around metrics and dashboards and annual reporting that we want to produce to really track our progress towards these goals of 2030, 2040, 2050. The eighth section will be more focused on the local solid waste management plan and like an integration map of where we think these projects could slot in. Again, it's a recommendation that will go to the agency. And then the ninth section, more around like potential resolutions that we think the county could pass to help with moving some of these things forward and just tactical next steps. We can get started on meeting some of these plans. So that's a framework. We'll see where that goes. I think we're in a great opportunity here to really make this happen. And I think if we can do this over the next couple of months, I think at the end of the year, we would aim for our November meeting to be kind of a presentation of this plan, and then we sort of pass it over to Mark and team. We'll pause there. Does that make sense?
This November?
Yes.
So there would be 2 meetings. So if I could just ask one question, when you're thinking about these 9, have you thought about like how to break them up? Because we'll be meeting in July and then you'll be meeting in. Have you thought about like how to cover each of, like when you would be covering each of these?
I mean, we'll need to discuss that, I think, once we identify the new community members, bring everyone in. I mean, we'll need to have a plan to build a plan, basically. So, I mean, I haven't exactly thought of like, we want to have each 3 sections done by these meetings. And frankly, if we can't get it done by November, that's another discussion, because I know this board exists for 1 year. And so I'm trying to get everything done by the time we reset at the end of the year, but
The meetings can be added
yeah,
As well.
exactly.
if necessary.
Exactly.
Or extended?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
I have one suggestion that might be an addition. It might already be in existing documents. But to do a little summary of programs that have worked.
Mhm.
I think there are really good examples. And at one point, we were going to have Neil Seldman, who focuses on zero waste, present on them, but Neil was determined to critique the global energy plan and that whole RFP. And so there was a misunderstanding, but he does have a lot of top of the head, very valuable information. Might want to try to revisit that for this committee or do the research, but one way or another, let's look at what's already working. And then there'll be a guidance document, which it turns out Neil gave the green light and said that company, MSW Consulting, he thought they were very good. So we'll see when the guidance document comes out. But one way or another, whether we utilize his information or not, and it may already be in the document that Sustainable Hudson Valley developed, or it may be in the earlier version that Mike Ewell and that preliminary zero waste committee worked on. I'll go back and look, but I know there are really good examples, and I just want to be sure that we include those in this.
Just to clarify, Matt, are those examples of programs that we're working here in Ulster County, or are those more broad?
Nationally.
Yeah, okay.
Like Portland, Oregon, Austin, Texas,
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah, that's good information and context to bring in, so we share that. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know, Donna, if you have any points. Erica just stepped out. Does that sound okay? Is that too aggressive? Is it achievable? You know, I'm thinking there's quite a lot of passionate, people in the community that I've heard from that have a lot of energy and desire to get this thing through the line. I know the legislature is interested and eager in funding, the guidance document. So once we bring the additional members in and we create the framework and start building it out, I feel confident we can get it done. We've still 6 or so, 8 months. Who knows?
I think it is a aggressive schedule. I'm not saying it can't be accomplished, but it just, I think, will depend on how much material goes out to the community members and the full in between meetings and how much work is expected to be done. Because if you really think about like how we're set up, we have 3 more meetings through the year, right? So let's take out like even that the November meeting would be like a presentation. Maybe the November meeting would be wrapping up and the final board meeting, regular board meeting of the month, this committee could come and present at that board meeting. You know, the other members aren't gonna be seated really, I mean, they'll be appointed potentially next week, but they'll just be coming in July. So if they get a bunch of materials ahead of time, I think
That's kind of my
easy.
plan. I don't think we should only use the meetings we have as collaboration and workshop sessions. I think it should really be about doing work sort of in between the meetings and feeding information in and, you know, having discussions.
Subcommittees?
Sort of. I mean, we've got, if we agree that on these sections, then it would be about like who wants to own a section and bring the right folks in to complete the section.
I mean, advisory committees aren't necessarily subject to the same open meetings law and other flows as like a regular agency committee. So if there is information shared via email as a group, that's less concerning, foilable than like, you know. So if there was collaboration done outside of the meetings, it's not as problematic as like it's regular.
Did you have a comment, Donna?
I'm sorry if you heard my dialogue with somebody, but it is that's perfect, except it's pretty aggressive. It's a lot of information there, and I don't know that a committee will be able to do that wonderful plan that you just described. But we do actually have, and maybe Mana can speak to this, but we do actually have a plan that maybe we could work on embellishing and formatting it like the one you mentioned.
Absolutely, Donna. I mean, that's kind of the homework I like. So I've seen that large document that has been built, and I think that's absolutely the groundwork and starting point. And we would pull whatever, you know, is relevant from that document into this as the starting point. So absolutely.
One step behind here, but what the county was going to do what happened with the county document?
It's in process. I mean, they're gonna push the deadline, I would imagine, which means like not great for this committee, but the work. I mean, they've added in a public participation piece with some surveys and other things that will make that a better document with community input. So I think that probably won't come out until August at the earliest. And so that will be a guidance document, again, meant for some actions by the legislature, meant for some implementation by the agency.
So maybe it's too aggressive of a timeline, but perhaps, you know, I don't know. I mean, if it rolls over to next year and like, you know, committees restructure, I don't think we all have the same shared ambition of getting this done. My concern is like getting to the end of the year, it's not finished, and I don't want it to sit as a document that doesn't get picked up again. I guess that's my worry.
We have, but the two documents are different, but they're operating on different paths right now. I'm concerned that you're going to have the legislature come out with a different path than we would come out with, and also
well, that shouldn't happen.
That worries.
We need to stay very with the legislature, and I think that's a really key piece of this to make sure that you know, as the document is written, we're, you know, in lockstep and we're not doing anything that's in a silo.
I mean, the guidance document that's being developed by MSW consultants, the folks who are in those meetings is myself and Chris Hewitt, who I believe is the legislator who is going to potentially be, right? Because he sits as the chair of Energy and Environment. And so, and then one legislative staff member who's there like for minute taking. So there shouldn't be that there's like a divergence in the two documents.
Okay,
because I can, you know, both Chris and I can come, Chris Hewitt, not Chris H, because that doesn't help. Chris Hewitt and I can come back and report at these meetings on what's happening in that document.
Well, here's another idea, right? Because four meetings in a year for this, it's just that, I mean, and we're almost, if we're developing a document as a committee, that's really more staff or consultant. Like, is it possible, just throwing this out here, what's the name of the company? MSW Management or something? What was it called? I mean, it's a consultants, okay. So is it possible that we, after they finish their document or in collaboration and coordination, they overlap to some extent, we hire them or someone like them or staff, I mean, whatever we choose to do to continue on with this I mean, because really a committee could take years to come up with something like this, and then there's turnover. And maybe the committee guides and sets the tone, but the actual nuts and bolts might be done by a consultant. And I don't love to. I think the value of doing these things is doing it in house, because that's better ultimately. But sometimes it's not always feasible, and sometimes the technical knowledge isn't there either. So, just my thoughts.
Yeah. So the original RFQ that went out from the county side was to do that, but the quotes that they got back were all about $50,000 to $60,000 higher. So this was the document that we were able to get for the $10,000 budgeted. I think if we wanted to get MSW consultants to do the work, I mean, I think Chris said something really important, which is this is an interim document that will be used. It won't even be a plan necessarily like adopted by the board to move forward. It will be what is used to go into the next version of the local solid waste management plan, which we intend to begin early, and that will be work done by a consultant. So I wouldn't want to hire a consultant to do this plan and then hire another consultant.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
that's fair. That's fair.
Could that consultant be pulled in earlier?
I mean, well, we don't have it funded, and at the regular board meeting, I think you'll see our revenues aren't great. So like, I mean, we don't have the money budgeted for that, but that's why I'm saying next year, if we fund some engineering, we could do an RFP early for the local solid waste management plan and have them help with this work. But it's also, it should just be in the local solid waste management plan, and we should be identifying those zero waste principles that we need in there. Like
In the solid waste, well, that's fair. That's fair. That's like a bridge document, and that seems like that could be accomplished by this. That seems reasonable to me for sure. And it parlays into the solid waste management plan. But we're doing some pre-work on that, which might save us a little time and a little bit of money ultimately. Good idea.
What was the last idea? That was the good idea?
that this is like a bridge to the local solid waste management.
I think it can be a parallel track, even though you're right that people have asked for public comment and they're gonna allow that. That'll get incorporated, but the document that they're commenting on can be available to the committee to start moving through that process. I'm hoping that it will be able to be done by the end of the year and then incorporated into the local solid waste plan next year. But this has been going on for several years, and it would be good to have a consensus document to give to whoever's gonna do the modification of the solid waste plan.
Yeah. Okay. Any other sort of comments at this point about the preliminary zero waste implementation plan framework or sort of process that we just discussed? Sounds like we agreed it's a good idea, both bandwidth and timing is going to be good.
And can we not extend the timeline?
We can, but I think the reset of all of our, as a board, like our committees will reset. So there's a chance that there's a new chair of this committee and they don't want to continue the traditional time. I think it's unlikely, but.
Right, so it would be a brand new, I mean, it would just be like other committees where it'd be starting next year in January, it'd be a brand new committee after the chair is chosen.
Oh, everyone?
Yes,
Including Chris Hewitt.
well, Chris won't be, that's part of the drive too, I think, is Chris I mean, there could be another, whoever is the energy and environment
Yeah,
chair
it's not
could
Chris.
then say, but it wouldn't be Chris.
Yeah.
Although, you know, you could continue him on as
As
a community
community
member.
member.
It's community member, yeah, community member. But the committee wouldn't necessarily reset, but it could. And the chairman, you know, so.
He could, or he or she, whoever is the chair, could just appoint the same committee, but there's just, I think, what Chris is pointing out is that there's the risk that that doesn't happen. And remember, this is not one of the required committees, so like, you know.
There's risk, that's all, but that shouldn't stop us.
If I may,
Go ahead, yeah.
also to include in whatever invitation goes out, the Recycling Oversight Committee has diverse members and they're very interested. So,
And I think that's a key part of this, because I know in the last creation of the document, there was a lot of different, you know, very passionate members that joined and helped collaborate in the creation of that document. And I'm hopeful that we can have similar engagement with the creation of this one, using all that good intelligence to start. And, you know, we need volunteers to help.
and Erica was at, you remember last meeting.
Yeah, we didn't set a new,
What's that?
we didn't set a date for the next meeting, right? Should be in
Yeah,
July.
yeah, we'll find out.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move into the next bullet point on the new business section list, which is a community member application discussion. So I'll talk a little bit about sort of what we're looking for. I think it's important, but then we may move into executive session if the committee agrees to actually make those decisions. But we want to make sure that the committee is, as you know, as transparent as we can about this process. I think what we really want to find when we bring community members into this board are people that can add value in a way that is different from the current constituents on the board, bringing practical experience doing either zero waste related initiatives and can help us really think through how to activate a plan across the zero waste implementation framework we want to build, or people that have experience within sort of the county and have experience working across different departments with the legislature, with the executive branch, et cetera, because we're going to need this a collaboration and alignment on not just creating the plan, but the actual action, the next steps, the funding mechanisms, things like that. So we'll be discussing that in the next section. Then we'll come out of executive session and sort of say who we've chosen, but then it will go into a formal board resolution for our regular board meeting, which is next week, to get approved. And then we will communicate to the new members and start inviting them to the subsequent sessions and getting everybody up to speed on the sort of goal of this, which is to build this implementation framework as we just discussed. So I will make a motion to move into executive session at this point.
Before you do that, that's one question.
Yes.
So when you come out of the executive session, you're going to announce who the board is, or who the committee members are recommending to the full board.
Yes, correct.
Will you be, just because that's already public, will you be reaching out to people tomorrow and saying, we are recommending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanna make
I'll reach out via email tomorrow to the select. It's all of them.
So nobody needs to wait for next week to know that.
Yeah, it'll be good. Sure. Tomorrow.
And people probably don't need to wait. I mean, people are always welcome to wait, but not necessarily wait through executive session outside, because they'll be notified tomorrow. You are welcome to stay, but not in this building.
So I will make a motion to move into executive session. Do I have a second to that motion?
A second.
All right, thank you. We'll move into executive session.
Oh, are you doing breakout room?
I think I am, but let me just, give me a second here.
Well, I like this idea. I'm probably taking a look at.
Sure.
And I think we can probably do more rapidly,
Mhm.
based off of who these committee members are, I think to be diagnostic. Saturday.
Yes.
To consider the vision. Governance and decision making would be a really fun process to see in this group. And then the metrics, I feel like Those are the four that stood out for me as more quickly doable, and a lot of the other stuff would probably fall on.
Yeah, and I think some of it will come through the governance or the guidance document that is recommended
Mhm.
to
Okay.
All right, we're back. So after a really great discussion in the executive session, we are happy to announce that we're going to be bringing in 4 community members to the Zero Waste Committee for the rest of the year. Those members will be Claudia Joseph, Manajo Green, Shabazz Jackson, and Rebecca Martin. We'll be reaching out to all 4 of these individuals tomorrow, just to confirm that they're part of the committee, and we'll be inviting them into the meetings and this process moving forward. We do not have any other old unfinished business, and there are no other next steps that we need to discuss here, I don't think. So with that, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
And I'll vote to adjourn the meeting.
I.
Aye. Donna, is there yes to adjourn?
Oh, yeah, I can't vote because I'm
Oh,
remote,
yeah.
so.
So yeah,
Yeah.
motion adjourned is over at 7 PM exactly.